I'm Alina Kovalchuk, 36, the youngest daughter-in-law in a family that worships power like scripture. I didn't come from money. I came from precision, law school, clerkship, silence. They mistook that for weakness. For years I let them. Because silence isn't surrender. It's a scalpel. My heels echoed as I stepped into the courtroom. 9th floor. Cook County. Room 942. Frosted glass. Hum of fluorescent light. Jordan leaned against the polished oak table like he owned the air. His parents, Ronald and Marjorie Whitaker, sat beside him, smug and silver-haired in matching navy suits, watching me like I was their charity case. They thought this was the end. The judge glanced up, dry-voiced. "You understand the terms, Ms. Kovalchuk?" "Ido." My voice didn't waver. The transfer includes all jointly held properties, investments, liquid accounts, and business shares. "Correct." Jordan leaned in, grinning. "Told you she'd fold." He didn't whisper. I slid the signed documents across the table, one page at a time. Neat. Final. They didn't notice the tremor in Marjorie's hand when her lawyer whispered something. Her eyes darted to her tablet. Lines of red. "You signed everything over." Jordan's grin split wider. 12 years, and you finally got smart. I said nothing, just looked at him long enough for him to flinch. The judge's gavel hit the wood. Motion carried. Property transferred. Adjourned. That was the moment their world should have cracked. But it didn't. Not yet. Outside the courtroom, I didn't stop. Didn't smile. I walked straight into the wind like it owed me answers. "You're giving them everything." Sophia's voice was low, incredulous, walking 2 steps behind. "I'm giving them a gift," I said. "They just don't know it explodes." Her phone buzzed. She froze. "Elena." I turned. She showed me the screen. Red alert. They triggered the lien. 3 blinking words under the Whitaker Holdings financial server. Debt activated. Secured default. $2,345,700.18. I didn't look surprised. "That was fast," I said. "They're going to realize." "They won't. Not yet. Because wealth makes people arrogant. But debt makes them panic." I watched through the lobby glass as Jordan stormed out of the building. He was shouting into his phone, his tie already half loose. Marjorie clutched Ronald's arm, staring down at a tablet like it had turned into a bomb. Behind me, Sophia whispered, "You sure about this?" "There's a reason you hand the match to the arsonist," I said. "They light it for you." Cut scene. My phone vibrated once. No name, just a number. The message was short. "It begins now." I turned and walked. Fast. Through revolving glass, into the cold wind. The city moved like it didn't care. But I knew better. Because behind every empire is a foundation of secrets. And I just cracked theirs open. The ink was still wet, but the damage was already bleeding through. The rain hit the window in hard, deliberate taps. Like someone was knocking. Like someone knew. I sat at my kitchen table, both laptops open, cables snaking around coffee mugs and manila folders. I hadn't slept. Didn't plan to. The silence between the walls wasn't safety. It was surveillance waiting to become sound. Sophia was pacing, barefoot, phone glued to her ear. "Carlos should have called by now," she said. "That server crash wasn't random." I stared at the screen. 3 emails had bounced back, undeliverable. 1 from my bank. 1 from my brokerage account. 1 from the real estate office that should have closed the final paperwork today. Everything was frozen. My hands were steady. Fear came later. First came calculation. "You ever wonder," I murmured, "why predators don't roar before the kill?" Sophia looked at me. "Because noise is for victory. Silence is for hunting." She didn't smile. Cut scene. Carlos finally answered. His voice was clipped, breathless. I was compromised. Something's in the system. Multiple IP reroutes, dummy access points. Elena, someone's been ghosting your profile for months. My throat went tight. How far back? 6 months minimum, maybe longer. The screen flickered. A message appeared. White font on black. Access logged. Session terminated. Carlos swore. They just shut me out. My heart pounded. Get out of your office. Now. He hung up. Another screen blinked. Unknown device requested password reset. Bank of Chicago Private. Sophia leaned over. That's Jordan's bank. I stood. No. It's mine. The one he doesn't know about. My breath fogged the glass as I looked out the window. Someone had moved the trash bins. Too neat. Too recent. Sophia, do we still have the flash drive? She grabbed her bag. Dud. Found it. A matte black USB. I plugged it in. No label. Just one folder. Ledger. Inside, spreadsheets, receipts, emails. And one video file. I clicked play. Static. Then a room. Dim, private, upscale. Jordan's voice off camera. Talking to someone I didn't recognize. Male. Nervous. Tech bro look. Jordan, delete the chain. Rewrite the timestamp. If it leaks, we both go down. Man, this is illegal. Jordan, so is fraud. Welcome to family. I paused the video. Timestamp, April 6th. 2 weeks before the Whitaker Foundation suddenly received a donation of $2.1 million. I looked at Sophia. Start printing. Cut scene. An hour later, the printer jammed. Paper scattered across the floor like confetti. But the damage was already done. I grabbed the burner phone. Dialed Carlos again. Voicemail. Carlos, if you're still breathing, don't go home. Go to the storage unit. Locker 216. Codes your mother's birthday. The file is in the lining of the silver briefcase. You'll know which one. I hung up. Sophia stared at me. What if he's already? Then they've made their first real mistake. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Power surge. Or warning. I moved to the breaker panel. Flipped the main switch. Darkness swallowed the apartment. No more digital, I said. From now on we go analog. Sophia's phone vibrated. One new message. No sender. She read it. Then her eyes snapped to mine. They have your passport. What? They said to check your safe. They left a gift. I ran to the closet, twisted the dial on the old floor safe. It creaked open. Empty. Except for one thing. A photo. My sister, walking out of her apartment, smiling, unaware. I turned the photo over. For words scrawled in ink. You lose, she vanishes. I dropped to the floor, pulse thudding in my ears. Sophia knelt beside me. This just escalated. I shook my head. No, this is still foreplay. She looked confused. They want me afraid. They want me to run. But I don't run. I grabbed the briefcase, pushed in the code, opened it. Inside, hard copies, 2 notarized property deeds, dates altered, my name forged, and 1 USB embedded in the foam. That's when I realized this wasn't a cover-up. This was a framing. Cut scene. My phone lit up again. No name. Just text. Your name's on every document now. Signed, sealed, and ready to burn. I stood. They're not just stealing money. They're writing a history where I'm the villain. Sophia's voice trembled. Then what do we do? I looked out into the storm. We flipped the script. Then came the knock at the door, and the voice I feared most. The knock wasn't loud. Just 3 taps. Calm. Deliberate. Sophia reached for her bag, hand hovering near the pepper spray. I raised one finger. Quiet. I cracked the door. A man stood there, hoodie up, shoulders broad, head down. He didn't speak. Just stepped back once, giving me space to see his face under the flickering hallway light. Damien. My breath caught. You're supposed to be dead. He shrugged. That's why I'm useful. Cut scene. The drive was silent. City lights smeared the windshield like war paint. Sophia sat behind me, still processing. Damien drove like he'd done this before. Fast, smooth, surgical turns. Why now? I asked. He didn't look at me. Because they stopped cleaning up after themselves. We pulled into an underground garage. Private. Gated. No cameras, just dead zones and steel beams. Damien slid out. Phone stay here. I hesitated. He smiled. You trust me enough to come. Might as well commit. Cut scene. We entered a storage unit, hidden behind a fake wall. Inside, maps files, a steel case locked with both code and thumbprint. The smell of metal and dust. The hum of halogen bulbs buzzing like flies. He opened the case. Inside, bank statements, offshore routing numbers, wiring instructions from fake charities linked to real dead donors. Jordan's signature was on 3 of them. But it wasn't Jordan that stopped me. It was mine. Damien handed me a magnifying lens. They scanned your signature off an old college form. Smart. Lazy but smart. My throat tightened. They're framing me. No, they already have. He pulled out a manila envelope. Inside, a federal report. Sealed. Not public record. 2 weeks ago, an investigator flagged a laundering trail that ended in your name. They didn't follow up. Guess who paid them off? My voice was cold. Ronald. No. Marjorie. She's the closer. Cut scene. We stood over a table littered with papers. Damien showed me a diagram. 10 shell companies. 6 real properties. 3 fake employees. All cycling money through my old consulting firm. I shut that firm down 6 years ago, I said. Doesn't matter. They kept the EIN active. I clenched my jaw. You know what people like your in-laws forget. Damien said, lighting a cigarette he didn't smoke. That control is an illusion. All it takes is one crack. Smoke curled toward the ceiling. And you're the crack. No, he said. You are. Cut scene. The silence cracked with the buzz of an alert. Damien's burner flashed red. He opened it. His jaw tightened. What is it? I asked. He turned the screen. A live feed. Security camera. My sister's apartment hallway. Empty. Then Jordan. Walking up to the door. Sophia gasped. I was already moving. Keys. Now. We raced through the garage. Tires screaming as we hit the street. My hand shook as I dialed. Voicemail. Another text. From an unknown number. She's safe if you stay quiet. Cut scene. We reached the apartment building in 7 minutes. Too late. Door open. Bedroom torn apart. My sister's necklace on the floor. Broken chain. A lipstick message on the mirror. You're out of time. I grabbed the phone. Dialed Jordan. He picked up. His voice was calm. You thought you could win this? With old files and broken loyalties. I want her back. You'll get her. After the gala. What gala? He laughed. The one your name's still on the invite list for. Click. Silence. Cut scene. Damien was pacing. His hands curled into fists. He's playing you. I know. Then why go along? I looked at the mirror, at the red writing, at my own face, because the only way out of a maze is to set fire to the walls. I opened the black briefcase. Inside, a signal trigger device. One tap. Full broadcast. Every file. Every account. Every email. Damien stared. You're gonna do it? I nodded. But not yet. He raised a brow. Why not? I looked straight at him. Because when they fall, I want the world watching. If I ran now, I'd live. But if I stayed, I'd win. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, waiters gliding past in tuxedos, balancing champagne like secrets. Everything gleamed in that ballroom, except the people. I stood near the entrance, gown black as ink, hair swept up to match the kind of elegance they mistook for surrender. Power is pretending not to know your own strength, I once heard. That night I was fluent in the lie. Sophia was already inside, wired. Damien had eyes on the exits. The briefcase stayed locked in the trunk of a car 3 blocks away. A backup file lived in a safety deposit box under a different name. I'd spent the last 3 days building a paper trail, so confusing even the IRS would get a migraine. My target? The Whitaker Foundation's annual charity gala, where dirty money put on sequins and danced for cameras. Jordan spotted me before I saw him. Of course, his eyes were trained to locate threats. "Elena," he said, crossing the floor with a drink in hand. "You showed." Didn't want to disappoint. He leaned in, whispering, "Your sister's fine. For now." I smiled. "And your public image? Holding up okay?" He stiffened. Behind us, a jazz trio played too loudly. Laughter bubbled like poison. I scanned the room, found Marjorie whispering to Nolan, the family's lawyer. He held a tablet. His thumb hovered. A dated dump waited. One he thought would ruin me. Cut scene. Damien's voice crackled in my earpiece. "They're transmitting from the West Hall. I'm close." "Copy." I moved toward the bar, keeping to the shadows. The air smelled like roses and old guilt. Sophia texted, "Check the table numbers. One's missing." I found it. Table 7. Empty. Set for 2. No place cards. I walked past casually, let my fingers brush the tablecloth. Beneath the napkin, a flash drive. I slid it into my clutch. That's when everything slowed. The lights dimmed. The music faded. And a voice rang out through the PA. "Ladies and gentlemen, a brief announcement." It wasn't planned. I knew every minute of this night. But that voice belonged to Ronald Whitaker. From the stage, he smiled. Calm. Regal. Terrifying. "Tonight, we're not only raising funds. We're revealing our family's latest philanthropic venture." He tapped a remote. A screen dropped behind him. A photo flashed. My face. Then my name. Then a headline. "Whitaker Foundation heiress accused of laundering $6.2 million. Details sealed under federal review." Gasps. Phones up. Screens lit. My heart slammed. But not panic. I expected this. What I didn't expect. The second slide. A scanned email, dated 3 days ago. Subject: Offshore transfer authorization. Signed, Elena Kovalchuk. It was fake, but the signature was perfect. Cut scene. Jordan's hand grabbed my arm. Not gentle. "This ends now." "No," I said, pulling free. "It begins." I raised my phone. Hit send. Across town, a fail-safe trigger uploaded the full file dump, videos, documents, timelines to a public archive. The press got it first. Then the SEC. Then a dozen whistleblower sites. Damien's voice cut in. They're scrambling. Nolan's deleting files on his end. "Sophia, guests are getting alerts. Twitter's blowing up." I moved to the stage. The mic was still hot. I took it. Paused. Looked at every face that had ever dismissed me. "You wanted a villain." I said, "Fine. I'll play her." Gasps again. Behind me, the screen changed. A new image. Jordan. In that private room. Caught on tape. Ronald lunged toward the screen operator. Too late. I stepped back, breath calm. They forged my name. They framed my life. But the thing about fire... I looked at Jordan. It spreads faster than control. Sirens outside. Blue lights spilled through the glass doors. SEC agents entered with badges drawn. One word broke the silence. "Whitaker." Jordan turned to run. Damien blocked him. I told you not to roar before the kill, I said. You never listened. Cut scene. Outside. As the guests fled and the agents swarmed, I stood alone in the wind. Sophia joined me, phone in hand. You see this? She showed me a message. Unknown sender. You think that was the whole game? Check your bank. And your bloodline. I stared at it. Then the cold dropped lower. The Whitakers weren't the architects. They were pawns. And someone else, someone older, quieter, was still moving pieces. The invitations went out weeks before the storm. Glossy gold print. Black envelope. A gala for charity. A chance to rebuild reputation. For the Whitakers, it was a garden party with sharks in tuxedos. For me, it was war. I stepped onto the carpet as flashbulbs cracked. Cameras focused. My dress was dark. Sharp. Like a blade. I didn't smile. My eyes scanned every face. The eyes are the aperture through which the heart can be seen. I'd heard that once. Tonight I tested it. Sophia moved beside me. Her heels clicked like warning bells. They've scrubbed half our leads, she whispered. The SEC just issued a gag order on Damien's file. Something's buried deeper. Good, said. Then this night needs a bigger explosion. We split. I walked toward the stage where Ronald Whitaker stood at the podium. Marjorie at his side. They beamed like saints. A cellist played, low and stately, a sound meant to soothe. I pressed a button on my phone. Silent alert sent. Not yet the trigger. Just noise. Distraction. Ronald raised a glass. Tonight, he said, we celebrate progress. We celebrate strength. The crowd clapped. They didn't see it, didn't sense the breach. Then my phone buzzed. Guest security feeds down. A ripple through the ballroom. Eyes darted. That was the moment chaos first smelled like salvation. I approached the podium. No one stopped me. The microphone stood within reach. My reflection flickered in the polished silver. A mirror without escape. You misplaced a decimal, I said loud enough for every camera to catch. Ronald blinked. Excuse me. I held up my phone. Your charity claims raised $10 million last quarter. I paused. Financials leaked show a $27 million deficit, with offshore transfers matching shell accounts tied to this foundation. Gasps erupted. Cameras turned. Waiters froze. Behind me, screens in the gallery flashed. Live document drop, Federal Repository. No one expected that. Sophia's text arrived. Stage, flash drive active. My thumb brushed the small device hidden in the folds of my gown. I hit send. The big screens lit. Row after row of spreadsheets. Email chains. Meetings annotated in red. Reference codes. My name on some. Not with forgeries anymore, but with evidence of oversight. Real oversight. Not accusation. Proof. Someone screamed. Cut scene. Jordan materialized beside me. His smile was brittle. You can't do this. I already have, I said. And then the room tilted. One guest bolted. A wine glass shattered near the piano. Security moved in, but not toward me. They went for Damien. From the back entrance sprinted two plainclothes agents, badges out, shouting commands. Federal agents, one barked. Hands where we can see them. Damien didn't resist, but his eyes flicked to me. Not weakness, alarm. My chest tightened. I turned back to the screens. A new batch popped up. Emails from Nolan. Not just financial. Personal. Drafts of press releases. Damage control memos. Admissions of knowledge about shell accounts dated years before I ever walked into this mess. This was bigger than reputation. This was systemic. The cello stopped. A waiter dropped a tray. Sophia reached me, breath sharp. They're pulling network access. Gala broadcast syncs in 60 seconds. Then we don't broadcast, I said. Another buzz. Threat message. Emergency alert. White text against red bar. Your sister will be released if you stand down. Otherwise, we proceed with prosecution. My sister. That red mark. The lipstick warning. Everything clicked. I was bait. A pawn on a pyre. But not unarmed. I kept speaking into the mic. You invited scrutiny, I said calm slow. Tonight the world sees your ledger, not just your speeches. Jordan lunged toward the stage. Security hesitated. I watched his jacket shift, slipped pistol. Tiny. Hidden. Deadly. Time locked. My heartbeat pounded. I stepped back a foot. 2. Eyes never leaving his. No one dies tonight, I said. Not for your secrets. He froze. Distraction. Reveal. My phone's final alert pinged. Global broadcast uploaded, securities and exchange comms. Screens shifted again. Live feeds from financial watchdogs, streaming worldwide. Ronald's face, drained color. Marjorie's hand flew to her throat. Jordan's hand twitched. Sirens outside. A convoy of black SUVs. Lights red and blue flashing through tall windows. Guests panicked, rushing exits. I looked down at my phone. Another message. Sister released, location sent. I exhaled. But then, gunfire. One shot. Loud. Echoing. People fell. Glass rained. Chaos ripped through the room like fire through paper. Security dove. I hit the floor. Sophia hit the floor beside me. We need to move, she said, shouting over screams. I didn't feel fear. I felt ice. Where is she? I asked. Sophia pointed. Exit C. And there, walking calmly toward us, the one person no one expected. Marjorie Whittaker. Slow steps. Eyes cold. A whisper through the racket. You think you burned our house down? I built another. Her heels clicked like finality. And in that moment, I knew the night wasn't a pyre. It was a crucible. The courtroom was sterile. White walls. Bright lights. No sados. That should have made it safe. But safety doesn't follow me anymore. I walked to the stand. My heels clicked like verdicts. Sophia sat behind me. Her eyes were hard, determined, like she'd built a fortress from chaos. The prosecutor didn't smile. Didn't need to. Elena Kovalchuk, he said, voice flat. You are here today as both whistleblower and alleged co-conspirator. He paused, letting the words hang. Heavy. I didn't flinch. You have 2 choices, he continued. Immunity with full cooperation or full prosecution. Everything on the table. My jaw tightened. Freedom, someone once said, isn't the absence of consequence. I thought of that now. I looked at the jury. Ordinary faces. People who didn't know they were about to see the collapse of a dynasty. I spoke. I will cooperate, I said, but not because I seek protection, because there are truths that must be laid bare, regardless of cost. Silence. That's when the twist came. The door opened. Sophia stood there, arms crossed. Not a lawyer. Not a stranger. A witness. She stepped forward. All eyes turned. I have information the court needs, she said calmly. The prosecutor blinked once. Proceed. She handed over a folder thick with documents, digital logs, server records, and one flagged file marked classified until now. I knew what it was. Damien had given it to her before he was taken in. The defense attorney tried to object. This was sealed, he argued. This court overrides sealed files for national security, the judge said, thumb hitting the bench. New evidence became public, a scandal larger than the Whittaker financial network. It was linked to federal contractors, to offshore accounts, to politicians, to wartime infrastructure contracts, to a company no one ever suspected, AMC Holdings. And buried deep inside that file was one name, Nolan Whittaker. Not Ronald. Not Marjorie. The son. The quiet one. The ghost in boardrooms. The one who never spoke. Proof. Nolan had used his father's influence to manipulate defense contracts and funnel black budget money through shell accounts tied to my fake signatures. The courtroom gasped. I didn't. Instead, my heart went cold. I turned to look at where Nolan was seated. His face didn't move. No remorse. Just calculation. Sophia whispered to me. He planned this. He always did. I nodded. My pulse throbbed, but I stayed still, because the next reveal wasn't just explosive. It was personal. The screen behind the judge flickered. Video. Raw footage of Nolan in his office, late at night. His voice, recorded by a whistleblower, played over the gallery. Once she signs on the dotted line, her name erases everything, even her family. I felt then the cruelty, the precision, the betrayal, not just financial, psychological. This wasn't about assets anymore. It was about power. The judge's gavel cracked once. Mr. Nolan Whitaker, she said, her voice like thunder. You are hereby taken into custody for charges of fraud, corruption, and conspiracy against the United States government. Handcuffs clicked. Nolan didn't resist. His icy blue eyes met mine. No fear, no regret, just certainty. Cut. Then silence. Sophia! And I walked out of the courtroom into the sun. Bright, harsh, purifying. Reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. A tidal wave of questions. But I only focused on one thing. My sister. She was waiting outside, safe, alive. She stepped forward, eyes red, but steady. I reached out. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. Because survival isn't soft. It's sharp. Sophia stood beside us. She said, truth doesn't protect you. It frees you. And suddenly I knew she was right. The media circus drew, in every headline. Whitaker empire falls. Whistleblower saves nation. Secret files exposed. And in one corner of the city, a foundation rose from the ashes. I helped start it, not with money, with purpose. A fund for women whose identities were stolen, whose names became weapons, whose lives were rewritten by others. The first board meeting was quiet, intentional. Every woman there a survivor, not a victim. I looked around. Their eyes were determined. Their voices were strong. And in that moment, I understood something deeper than victory. Power without accountability is destruction. And truth, once unleashed, is unstoppable. I left the meeting and walked out onto the city street. Wind gusted. Sirens wailed in the distance. But I felt calm, because I had faced fear. And fear had blinked first. Someone once said, justice taught us who we are. I think now it taught me who I can become. The sky above Chicago was vast. Not silent, not empty, but free, just like me.